The U.S. Constitution is a scam. Part 2 by Humongous. Since taxation is extortion, consider the gall displayed by the government in its criminal demands. When a thief robs you at gunpoint, at least he's honest. His intentions are clear, and he doesn't lie about them. When the government purloins from you, it claims to do so for your benefit. As perceptively stated by Lysander Spooner, quote, "The government does not, indeed, waylay a man in a lonely place, spring upon him from the roadside, and, holding a pistol to his head, proceed to rifle his pockets. But the robbery is nonetheless a robbery on that account, and it is far more dastardly and shameful. The highwayman takes solely upon himself the responsibility, danger, and crime of his own act. He does not pretend that he has any rightful claim to your money, or that he intends to use it for your own benefit. He does not pretend to be anything but a robber. He has not acquired impudence enough to profess to be merely a quote-unquote protector, and that he takes men's money against their will merely to enable him to quote-unquote protect these infatuated travelers who feel perfectly able to protect themselves or do not appreciate his peculiar system of protection. He is too sensible a man to make such professions as these. Furthermore, having taken your money, he leaves you, as you wish him to do. He does not persist in following you on the road against your will, assuming to be your rightful quote-unquote sovereign on account of the quote-unquote protection he affords you. He does not keep quote-unquote protecting you by commanding you to bow down and serve him, by requiring you to do this and forbidding you to do that, by robbing you of more money as often as he finds it for his interest or pleasure to do so, and by branding you as a rebel, a traitor, and an enemy to your country, and shooting you down without mercy if you dispute his authority or resist his demands." Unquote. You've heard it before. Politicians are public servants, representatives of the people. It's a lie. How can you be subservient to someone if you can tax them, but they cannot tax you? How can you represent somebody if you can force laws upon them, but they cannot do so to you? Obviously, we the people are the servants here, and the government, our masters, even though we're brainwashed to believe otherwise. And how about the process by which our overlords become such? We're talking selection by secret ballots. Anything that has to be done clandestinely should be viewed as suspect. You vote, but since such is conducted in secret, how can we be certain the government hasn't lied to us about the results? It lies to us about everything else. Why should we suddenly believe bureaucracies when it comes to outcomes of elections? In the words of Lysander Spooner, quote, "Men honestly engaged in attempting to establish justice in the world have no occasion thus to act in secret. The secret ballot makes a secret government, and a secret government is a secret band of robbers and murderers. Open despotism is better than this. The single despot stands out in the face of all men and says, 'I am the state. My will is law. I am your master. I take responsibility of my acts. The only arbiter I acknowledge is the sword. If anyone denies my right, let him try conclusions with me.'" The gross number of these secret votes, or what purports to be their gross number, in different localities is occasionally published. Whether these reports are accurate or not, we have no means of knowing. It is generally supposed that great frauds are often committed in depositing them. They are understood to be received and counted by certain men, who are themselves appointed for that purpose by the same secret process by which all other officers and agents of the band are selected." Unquote. So you've got votes tallied in secret by record keepers who were themselves appointed surreptitiously. The Constitution awards whomever wins these ludicrous elections powers we, the people, don't possess. These abilities allow for thievery of us under threat of extortion and imprisonment should we not comply. Does a dick have to be unlubed before you realize it's fucking you? In addition, a secret ballot means those elected will not be accountable for their promises. You voted for a politician because he pledged a freeway that would reduce your drive time to the slavery known as your job. Once this slug is in office, he fails to keep his word and no freeway is built. You're pissed, asserting you voted for this loser because he made a commitment he's refusing to honor. That said, you have no recourse. You're mired in a system which elects its leaders via secret ballot. There's no way you can verify you voted for this guy. Hence, he can simply claim you're lying, and there's nothing you can do about it. Your anonymous ballot is somewhere amongst multitudinous other anonymous ballots. Speaking of politicians, how many times have you heard this crap? "As a nation, we're so far in debt it's crippling us. Our children are our future. And unless we can pay off this financial obligation, our progeny may not have a country to call their own." Ah, fuck! The keyboard's covered in shit. First off, money is debt. Anytime you provide something with intrinsic value in exchange for useless pieces of paper called cash, you're in arrears. Hence, as long as there's money, there's debt. Great news, though, money also doesn't exist. Its value is illusory and only a factor as long as we believe it so. Hence, if we stop giving legitimacy to money, that quote-unquote debt these fucknuts keep cramming down our throats, which never existed in the first place, fails to be a problem for us. Second, I never signed any contract, known as the Constitution, claiming I'd pay the debt these politicians have accrued. Hence, according to your own legalese, I don't owe anything. You spent $1 trillion bombing yet another territory filled with brown people, and now you want me to pay your debt so you can create more weapons and do it all over again? Fuck off! Where's the contract I signed obligating me to pay your debt? You can't produce it because it doesn't exist. Gotta reference Olazander again on this one. Quote, "On general principles of law and reason, debts contracted in the name of, quote, the United States, unquote, or of, quote, the people of the United States, unquote, are of no validity. It is utterly absurd to pretend that debts to the amount of 2,500 millions of dollars are binding upon 35 or 40 millions of people when there is not a particle of legitimate evidence, such as would be required to prove a private debt, that can be produced against any one of them, that he or his properly authorized attorney ever contracted to pay 1 cent. Certainly, neither the whole people of the United States nor any number of them ever separately or individually contracted to pay a cent of these debts." Unquote. Why do we afford the U.S. Constitution, a contract that enslaves us, special privilege we'd never provide any other agreement? What the hell's wrong with us? The government will force you to do this and strong-arm you to do that, but should you view the situation logically? It's a paper tiger. First off, none of us own anything. See the Red Pill blog for proof of that. But the government really doesn't own anything. Ponder the depth of the bullshit pool you have to be drowning in to believe the government owns something. Step away from the White House lawn, or I'll be forced to shoot you. This is government property. Are you kidding me? The taxes we, the people, paid, funded the White House. Its lawn, the maintenance of that lawn, the guard pointing the gun at you, the gun itself, the bullets in that gun, etc. The government doesn't own anything. If there were human owners of this crap, which there aren't, it would be the people. LS, take it away, brother. Quote, they, the government, do indeed pretend to own large tracts of wild lands lying between the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, and between the Gulf of Mexico and the North Pole. But on general principles of law and reason, they might as well pretend to own the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans themselves, or the atmosphere and the sunlight, and to hold them and dispose of them for the payment of these debts. Unquote. Ruminate on the absurdity of man-made laws, which are no more than threats. If you don't do what we demand, we'll take everything you have. If you contradict the rules we've made for you, we'll throw you in jail. Reduce it to fundamentals and see if it doesn't sound ridiculous. If you were told you could be imprisoned for taking a leaf across an imaginary line, would you believe it? Of course not. Yet, you purchase pot in Colorado, quote unquote, legally, and drive into Kansas, and you can be arrested and thrown in jail for years. What part of this bullshit doesn't sound insane to you? What portion of it doesn't reek of control? You have a plant in your possession, and you just crossed a make-believe line, for fuck's sake. So the next time you're buying fireworks in preparation to celebrate your quote-unquote freedom on July 4th, ask yourself what you're free from. Autonomy? Logic? Sanity? How can you be free if your entire existence consists of doing things you abhor, cowering to threats others have forced upon you, and battling extortionists? Yeah, you've been duped. We all have. Now, do something about it.